Obsessive-compulsive disorder, or OCD, might be a term you've heard before, but what does it really mean? It's more than just liking things a certain way or being a neat freak. It's a serious mental health disorder that affects people from all walks of life, regardless of age or background. At its core, OCD is characterized by a person getting caught in a cycle of obsessions and compulsions. Obsessions are unwanted, intrusive thoughts, images, or urges that trigger intensely distressing feelings. Compulsions, on the other hand, are behaviors an individual engages in to attempt to get rid of the obsessions and/or decrease his or her distress. It's like being stuck in a loop of anxiety and relief, with the person feeling compelled to repeat the cycle over and over again. As renowned psychologist Dr. Jeffrey Schwartz said, OCD is like an unwelcome guest with bad manners. It just shows up whenever it wants and doesn't leave easily. Did you know there are many different types of obsessive-compulsive disorder, each with its unique set of obsessions and compulsions? Let's delve into some of the most common types to give you a better understanding. First off, we have contamination obsessions. People with this type of OCD have an irrational fear of contamination. It might be dirt, germs, or even a particular person they consider unclean. In response to these fears, they might compulsively wash their hands, clean their surroundings, or avoid touching certain objects. Next, we move on to symmetry obsessions. Individuals with this type struggle with a need for things to be perfectly symmetrical or in a particular order. This could manifest as arranging books in a specific pattern, aligning cutlery just so, or repeatedly checking if the doors are locked in a certain sequence. The fear here is that if things aren't just right, something bad might happen. Then, there are harm obsessions. This type is characterized by intrusive thoughts about causing harm to oneself or others. It's important to note that these thoughts are unwanted and cause significant distress. To cope with this, individuals might engage in compulsions such as repeatedly checking the stove to ensure it's off, or avoiding knives and other sharp objects. There's also a type called forbidden or taboo thoughts. Here, individuals struggle with obsessions involving religious, violent, or sexual thoughts that they find highly distressing and inappropriate. To manage these thoughts, they might engage in mental rituals like praying or repeating certain phrases in their mind. Lastly, we have hoarding obsessions. Individuals with this type have difficulty discarding items, fearing that they might need them in the future. Consequently, they end up accumulating a lot of stuff, leading to cluttered living spaces. Remember, these are just some of the many types of OCD. Each individual's experience with the disorder is unique, shaped by their specific obsessions and compulsions. No matter the type, the impact of OCD on a person's quality of life can be substantial. How can you tell if someone has OCD? What are the signs and symptoms to look out for? Obsessive-compulsive disorder, or OCD, is a mental health condition characterized by persistent, unwanted thoughts and behaviors. The signs and symptoms can vary greatly from person to person, but there are common threads that weave through many individuals' experiences. One of the most well-known symptoms of OCD is excessive cleanliness or hand washing. This is driven by a fear of contamination, and it can extend beyond the hands to include cleaning household items or avoiding public places. It's not just about liking things clean. It's an intense fear that can dictate a person's life. Another common symptom is the constant need to check on things. This could mean repeatedly checking to see if the door is locked or if the stove is turned off. It's not just a case of forgetfulness, it's a relentless worry that something bad will happen if these checks aren't made. Then there's the symptom of order and symmetry. People with OCD may feel a compelling need to have things arranged in a certain way, or for things to be just so. A single item out of place can cause great distress and anxiety. It's not about being meticulous or organized. It's a desperate need for control and order. Some individuals with OCD may also struggle with unwanted and intrusive thoughts. These can be disturbing and can revolve around harm coming to oneself or loved ones. These thoughts can be extremely distressing, and the individual may perform rituals or behaviors to neutralize these thoughts. It's important to note that everyone can experience these behaviors to some degree. It's when they become persistent, cause significant distress, and interfere with daily life, that they may indicate OCD. And remember, OCD is a treatable condition. If you or someone you know is experiencing these symptoms, it's crucial to seek help from a mental health professional. Recognizing these signs is the first step towards seeking help. Who is at risk for developing OCD? Let's delve into this, shall we? The risk factors for obsessive-compulsive disorder, or OCD, are multifaceted and can be categorized into three main groups: genetics, brain structure and functioning, and environmental factors. Let's start with genetics. Yes, OCD can indeed run in families, suggesting a genetic component to the disorder. Research indicates that individuals who have first-degree relatives with OCD are at a higher risk of developing the disorder themselves. However, it's important to note that genetics alone doesn't determine whether one will develop OCD or not. Next, we look into the brain. Differences in certain areas of the brain and its functioning have been associated with OCD. For instance, heightened activity in areas that handle processing of fear and stress responses can contribute to the symptoms of OCD. Additionally, an imbalance of certain neurotransmitters like serotonin can also play a part. Lastly, environmental factors. These can be as varied as the individuals experiencing them. Stressful life events, such as the death of a loved one, divorce, or even moving, can trigger OCD in people who are already predisposed to it. Childhood trauma, particularly physical or sexual abuse, has also been linked to the development of OCD later in life. It's crucial to understand that these risk factors do not work in isolation. Often it's a complex interplay of all these elements that paves the way for OCD. And even then, having these risk factors doesn't guarantee that one will develop the disorder. They merely increase the likelihood. So, if you're thinking that you or a loved one may be at risk, remember this. OCD is a highly individualized disorder, and its manifestation varies greatly from person to person. It's always best to seek professional help if you're concerned. While these factors can increase the risk, they don't guarantee that a person will develop OCD. OCD might seem overwhelming, but there are treatments available. Let's delve into the most common ones that have proven effective for many individuals grappling with this disorder. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, is a frontline treatment for OCD. It's a form of psychotherapy that helps change thought patterns leading to unwanted behaviors. One specific type of CBT, exposure and response prevention, or ERP, has been particularly beneficial. ERP exposes individuals to thoughts, images, and situations that make them anxious or start their obsessions. Over time, the anxiety caused by these triggers decreases, and the compulsive behaviors often follow suit. In some cases, medication can be a valuable tool in managing OCD. Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or SSRIs, are often prescribed. These drugs increase the levels of serotonin in the brain, a neurotransmitter linked to feelings of well-being and happiness. It's important to remember, though, that medication is not a cure-all. It's often most effective when used in conjunction with therapy. For extreme cases of OCD that don't respond to conventional treatments, neurosurgery might be considered. This is not a decision to be made lightly and is often viewed as a last resort. Neurosurgery for OCD involves making small lesions in the brain to interrupt the flow of information between areas involved in OCD. It's a serious procedure and should only be considered under the guidance of a medical professional. Remember, everyone's experience with OCD is unique, and what works for one person may not work for another. It's a process of trial and error, of learning and adapting. But the most important thing to remember is that help is out there. With the right support and treatment, you can learn to manage your symptoms and lead a fulfilling, productive life. As Dr. Schwartz puts it, there is no cure for OCD, but it can be managed to the point where it no longer controls your life. OCD is more than just a quirk or a preference for neatness. It's a serious mental health condition that can disrupt a person's life. It's not about being overly tidy or excessively organized. It's about intrusive thoughts and repetitive behaviors that can take over one's life. It's about the invisible battles people with OCD fight every day, often in silence. Knowledge is power. Understanding the intricacies of OCD helps us to empathize with those who live with it, and to dispel the myths and misconceptions surrounding it. We can change the narrative, one conversation at a time, fostering a more inclusive and understanding society. Remember, mental health is just as important as physical health. It's okay to seek help, and it's okay to talk about it, and that's it. How does this new understanding of OCD change your perception of it? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and if you're one of those psychology lovers, subscribe to our channel for more videos like these.